Now, Honda Elements originally made from 2003 to 2011. They disappeared. I guess Honda thought originally, hey, people want this big boxy vehicle you can put a lot of stuff in, but then decided, oh, we're not selling enough. Maybe people don't want square, big, boxy things. Now, years ago, as a car talk guy, I saw the original Elements when they came out, and I thought it was cool because since you can open the side, they got all kinds of room inside. You can take the seats out if you want. Now, personally, I've always had a thing for suicide doors. And as you can see on the other side, it's got suicide doors on both back ones. There's a lot of leg room in these babies. Lots of leg room, and if you take the seats out, you got a lot of cargo space too. It's one big square vehicle. It's kind of like a mini cargo van. Now this is the plain Jane model. It's front wheel drive only. But in 2011 they made an all-wheel drive version, so hey, if you're really into the beach and dunes, it's got decent enough clearance on it. You do a little off-roading in it. But the main purpose of these things were solid, reliable transportation that you can fit a reasonable amount of people in. They'll have some zip. After all, it is a Honda. We'll open the hood. It's got a decent size 2.4 four-cylinder engine. And for a little vehicle, its 166 horsepower gives it quite a bit of zip. And it's a Honda engine. They're relatively bulletproof. Now, this particular one is mated with a 5-speed automatic. It's uniquely set up in the middle here. It's a real reliable 5-speed automatic. You could also get it with a 5-speed standard transmission. Interestingly, both the automatic and the standard have the same amount of gears, and they are absolute screamers. I've got customers with ones with the 5-speed standards. Some of them have 200,000 miles on, strong engines and transmissions. Now, some of the early 2000 Honda automatic transmissions did indeed have problems, but this particular one is an 08. They didn't have any real problems with them. Transmission on this thing still shifts fine. But as we check inside, we start it up. Starts right up. This baby's got 151,930 miles. Got a utilitarian interior, but with the age and mileage, look, seats are still in excellent shape. They're comfortable. Look at the headroom. There's headroom in these things for big people. All the space in the back. This was truly a well-designed vehicle. We'll take it for a spin. The first thing I notice, freezing cold air conditioning. Typical in a Honda. Now we'll take it for a spin, see how it accelerates. Still got some decent acceleration to it. Transmission still shifts pretty smooth. And for a boxy vehicle, hey, it is a Honda, it handles quite well. It corners well. Now, of course, you're going to feel bumps on it. It's got a lot of mileage on it. And these aren't the smoothest riding vehicles. That's not what they're made for. And even though they got a lot of space inside, they're not that big on the outside, so they're real easy to drive and park. So you can see, even though this thing's a 2008, still got tons of horsepower. The transmission still shifts like a dream. I know people are going to say, well, Scotty, how long can these things last? Well, maintain it like a regular Japanese car. Change the engine oil and filter frequently. Do normal servicing. I got customers that have 300,000 miles on these things and they're still going down the road, and they generally don't require all that much maintenance. This one, still nice and stable. Still got the original struts on it. They're still going strong. Honda makes reliable vehicles. But for some reason in 2011, they decided they weren't going to make these anymore. Kind of like my Matrix. They made them for a while, then they stopped making them. Now, the Elements weren't made in Japan. They were made in East Liberty, Ohio, but I haven't seen any problems with their production facilities there. I've been to Ohio, and Honda's got some big investitures there. They have a lot of research and development going on there outside of Columbus, Ohio. Not like, oh, they don't make them in Japan, they're not any good. They're still good, well-built vehicles that just happen to be built here in the United States. Because truthfully, where cars are made has a lot to do with their good cars or not. Personally, I am not a fan of hardly any car that's made in Mexico because they have poor quality control there. That's just the way that it goes. People are making cars in Mexico because it's cheaper to manufacture them all. They're not making them because they're higher quality there. It's just a cost-cutting thing. And from my experience of 52 years of working on cars, cost-cutting does not go hand in hand with better quality. It almost always follows with lower quality cars. So if you're looking to buy any car, it behooves you to find out where was that thing made. Do a little research. They used to tell you openly, but even on this 2008, it really doesn't tell you. It just says, manufactured by Honda of America Incorporated. Unlike my old Celica that's more honest, which says in it, made in Japan. For me, I wish all the manufacturers were more above board and had exactly where it was made. They should make a law that says it has to tell you what factory it was made in, what country, so you don't have to go jump through hoops to figure out, gee, where was my car actually made? Because often it's a big difference in quality from one country to another, from one plant to another. Take an example. When I was young, I had a Ford Maverick. It was made in Oakville, Ontario. That thing was indestructible. The Canadians, hey, they're notorious for making well-built cars. Heck, they made the old Windsor V8s for Ford Mustangs. I'd have no qualms about buying a Canadian car. Oh yeah, I already did. This Matrix was made in Cambridge, Ontario. No problems with that. And this Honda was made in Ohio. They haven't had any particular problems coming out of the factory there either. This is a Honda 2011 Crosstour. Now, strangely enough, these Crosstours were made from 2009 to 2015. Now, this thing shares tons of stuff with the Honda Accord. Originally, they're going to call it the Honda Accord Crosstour, and then they decided to call it a Crosstour. But this particular one is the base model. It's just front-wheel drive. The rear wheels just spin. There's no drive on the rear wheels. So this particular model gets 1 mile a gallon better gas mileage than if it was all-wheel drive, which is a little bit less efficient. But a lot of people up north, they want all-wheel drive. They don't care about the 1 mile a gallon difference, and they pay extra for the all-wheel drive version. Now, since it shares a bunch with the Honda Accord, look under the hood. The old hood strut's worn out, so that never fails. It's got the 3.9 VTEC, same engine the Honda Accord use. Puts out 271 horsepower. This baby's got a lot of zip to it, and they're pretty reliable Honda V6 engines. But as far as I'm concerned, Honda kind of went cheap on this. Even though this is 2011, still got a rubber timing belt on it. Now, Honda switched their 4-cylinder engines to timing chains long before that, but for some reason they kept the timing belts on their V6 engines. The newer ones have changed too, but this baby has a rubber timing belt and it is an interference engine. So as they age, you gotta worry. Are you gonna spend a bunch of money changing out the timing belt, the water pump, the pulleys? Are you gonna gamble that that belt might snap, pistons will hit the valve, and then you can say goodbye car or spend multiple thousands of dollars rebuilding the engine? Here, Honda was a little bit late coming out of the gate, still having a rubber timing belt on this thing. Now, the engine itself is made to a 5-speed automatic transmission. Now, granted, Honda has had problems and they had a recall, but the recall stops at 2010, and this is a 2011. I haven't seen any of these 2011s go up. I've seen the 2010s. Not the 2011s. Honda isn't a stupid company. They have very good engineers. They found the flaws. The newer ones don't have those flaws. They learned from their mistakes. And the fix in the earlier model 5-speed automatic transmissions was a software change to put less strain on the shaft that could have problems inside. So it wasn't like the things just fell apart. But the new ones, they don't have that problem. This particular one doesn't have any transmission problems. Let's check inside. Got a nice interior, black and silver. Tons of space in the back. This baby has space. Big people are comfortable in the back of this car. Start her up. Typical Honda starts right up, and it's got 642 miles. A little over 100,000. So let's take it for a spin. And it's an older car, so it doesn't have the backup camera on it. As you can see, just like a Honda Accord, it's a relatively quiet driving vehicle. Got nice handling characteristics. And we'll give it a little bit of gas. Yeah, they go like stink. Still shifts pretty good. And it takes the bumps good even with 100,000 miles. All in all, it's a pretty sweet handling vehicle. And it is a Crosstour after all. So it's a crossover vehicle. It's got a lot of space, a little bit higher off the ground. Got a heck of a lot of room in the back seat. We check out the trunk. Big old trunk. And you can flip the seats down, make it even bigger. A pretty well designed and well built vehicle. So why, oh why did they stop making them? These crossovers, it's a highly competitive market. Toyota had the same problem with their Venza. Nothing wrong with the vehicles. They stopped making them. It's such a competitive market. Take this for example. The Subaru crossover was much cheaper than this and came with all-wheel drive standard. If you wanted all-wheel drive on this thing, you had to pay thousands more. And in this highly competitive marketplace, Honda just thought, we're not selling enough of them. We won't make them anymore. I gotta say, all my customers with them, they've been happy. They're not complaining. They love the cars. Not like they had any real problems, just like the Toyota Venza. Didn't really have any problems. It was more a marketing problem that they saw. That maybe wasn't such a problem after all. Here we have a 2010 Honda Fit. Guy bought his used car, bought it with 116,000 miles, $3,500. Gets phenomenal gas mileage. It'll get 40 on the highway. So now people more see them as compact cars, not subcompacts. But as you can see, there's lots of room in the front. It has back seats. And even though these seats are all the way back here, there's still room in the back. And as you look in the back, they're very convenient because it's got the trunk. But of course, these seats will flip down. And when you flip them down, there's a lot of space in one of these things. Yeah, it's a small car, but it's very well proportioned for what people want to use them for. They're great commuting cars, but hey, you can take trips in them. You go camping in them. You can throw stuff in there. But of course, the main thing was this, is it's a Honda. Now, this particular one, hey, it lives in Pennsylvania. And you can see all the corrosion. That's just what happens with aluminum. Down here you can see the corrosion. You're going to get superficial corrosion. That's not something to chase you away from a car. Now, even though it's got 121,000 miles on it, the engine doesn't burn any oil at all. Now, this guy spent a long time looking at this thing, almost a year to find it. And he ended up buying it from a nurse because her husband wanted to get a pickup truck. So they sold this and got a used pickup truck. There's always reasons for people to sell cars that are still decent. In this case, this was more or less their spare car. It turned into their spare car. And spare cars, hey, they're great buys because people, oh, well, I don't need that anymore. Take advantage of somebody who doesn't want a nice car anymore and buy it. This is why I always tell people, the best deals an average human's gonna get is from individual people because they have a reason to sell something, and if they're not getting rid of it because it's a pile of junk, they just don't need it anymore. Now, this is a 1.5 liter 4-cylinder engine. It's not a race car, but it's a small car. And because of its age, this is not that Earth Dream stuff. It doesn't have a turbocharger. It doesn't have gasoline direct injection. It has normal Honda systems. It does have the IV tech, so it gets as much power as it can out of a little engine without ruining it by putting too much pressure from a turbo and from gasoline direct injection. As you can see, it's sort of a dinosaur because it's still got an EGR valve here. The new ones don't use EGR valves. Nice stock wheels. It's front wheel drive. It handles great in the snow. Being an economy car, it's got drum brakes in the back, which doesn't bother me in the least because, hey, my Matrix has drum brakes in the back too. So let's start it up and check it out. Of course it starts up, it's a Honda. And listen to that engine. Smooth, even though it's 1.5 liter. You hear a tiny bit of clacking. As I always tell people, Hondas are different than other cars. You need to adjust the valves. Now, he adjusted the valves himself, but he adjusted them cold. So I would say you can readjust them warm. It's not going to really hurt anything. Now, he did have one problem, which is typical for these. And you can see down there, the AC clutch is all nice and shiny. And that's because it's brand new. It broke. The AC clutch broke. He took it in, the guy went over $1,000 to fix it, right? Well, he's a smart guy. So what did he do? He went and bought a clutch or something for $100 and he did it himself. You know, that's the thing about these. Look at the working room. Front wheel drive, all kinds of working rooms. So I like about these little cars. You can work on them. They're easy to work on. God forbid something happens, you flooded it out. The engine comes out real easy too. If you want to buy a used engine and throw it in, they don't generally wear out, but I mean, you know, you can suck water in and blow up an engine real fast. Let's take it for a spin. It is an economy car. Things are thinner. They're not insulated much. They make noise, but they can run forever. Running perfectly fine, shifting fine, but you're gonna notice one thing with the Fits. Here's our bumpy Rhode Island road. They're relatively stiff riding. You're gonna feel bumps when you hit them because this is an economy car. And never, I repeat, never buy one of these and expect a really smooth ride. You can't. Even in my wife's Matrix, it's a bumpy ride. I tried all kinds of different shocks, springs, doesn't make any difference. They're short wheelbase, they're small cars, you're gonna feel bumps. They're smooth on a highway when it's a smooth highway, yeah, and they handle like a dream. This handles even better than a Matrix, but they are bumpy rides. Don't ever get one of these if you want a smooth ride. That's not what these things are about. But they are great handling. These Hondas are fun to drive around. And you can see, even though it's got an automatic transmission, it still shifts really smooth. And of course, due to their small size, these things are easy to park. They're great for cities. You can park these things simply. Anyone can park them. They're so small. And they have a good view all the way around too. They really don't have any blind spots. They're pretty well designed. And even though they got that little engine, and you step on the gas, they got that Honda engine, you can feel it. It's got that Honda variable valve timing, and they got a lot of zing for a little car. And there's one thing I like best about this car. As you can see, made in Japan. And interestingly enough, the man who owns this car came from Cambodia, and this is the first car he ever bought here in the United States. Then later, last year, he helped his brother get a good used Camry for $2,300. Smart people, they know where to spend their money. Now, it does have one code, so let's see what's going on. Here we go. Do intelligent diagnosis. It knows what it is, and it'll go through all this stuff. Do smart scan. Now, I believe he's changed some of the headlights out, so it might have some codes for the headlights. Who cares? You put in LEDs and stuff and replace it with non-LEDs. It can put up codes and stuff, but as long as they work, who cares? The headlights work fine. We got two reds. One is the tire pressure monitoring system. He knows the batteries are bad. He don't want to spend a fortune replace them. I don't blame him. Tire gauges cost a little, but it does have a BCM code. So let's check that out. The body control module. Okay, well, his daytime running lights work, but he swapped them out and he didn't want to buy the coder, so that doesn't really mean anything. We don't care about that either. Now, this car's trying to tell me something. You can see the headlights are flashing. They're actually not flashing. Special lights that he put in there, and the sun is shining into them. When I look here, this is not flashing, but the camera's picking up on it. So it's a magical car, you know? For the $3,500 that he paid for it, it's the first car his family ever had here in the United States. He used his noggin on this one. This was before coronavirus, though, and he only paid $3,500 for it. He wanted a Civic, but of course the kids like the Civics, and they were $8 grand instead of $3,500. Hey, this is a fun, well-made car. You find one of these in this kind of shape, hey, snap it up. Just like I warned you, though, if you're into really smooth riding cars, you're not going to be happy because it is a compact car and it rides like a compact car, but it's going to run forever. So me, it's my kind of car. I don't care if it bounces around a little, as long as it doesn't break and gets good gas mileage and still looks nice, I'm happy. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.